Here we are back in the shed, and I'm messing about finishing off this Amerex 8-track radio receiver. Now, one of the most difficult things about this particular one has been that it had been dropped on the front. This caused the plastic panel here for the radio dial to smash. It also bent the rather 70s brushed metal finish like a dog's hind leg, and try as I might, there's no way I was ever going to be able to straighten that out without marking it. So the only solution I could come up with was to cut out a piece of perspex to suit, and then apply some wood effect stick-on plastic around it, drill the hole for the tuning knob, which was another thing that was damaged because the shiny cap in the middle had gone on the original. There were also only 3 sliders. The other one was an odd one out, so because they look faintly in keeping with the time, I suspect these probably came off an old television set, one of the when you used to change the channel years ago, when you actually had to get up and do it. So, and they seem to fit nicely. Controls are nice and smooth. Now, unfortunately, also written on here was what all these switches did. So I've had to do my own thing there, and just put it on there with one of those permanent marker pens as best as I can. Time was I could have done it and it would have looked as if they'd done it from the start, but I'm afraid with a bit of arthritis in my hands now, it's well, those days are gone, let me put it that way. So switching on here, radio dial comes on.
I care for the light for me. Remember a Saturday. In the course of a lifetime runs over and over again.
As you see, the little stereo light comes on. The only thing that I can't do anything with is the AFC switch, which is part of a big group of them behind here in a row, and the only way I could really replace that is to take the whole thing out and completely desolder it, and I don't fancy doing that because the rest of the system works as it should. It does pull in a good signal on the radio, so really leave well alone, I think, is the appropriate thing to do there.
We may never meet again on the Bombay road to love. On the high spots today they'll borrow, dry spots will come tomorrow, but nobody cares, for now they're all millionaires. Polishing the nails, I'm stepping out, my dear, to breathe an atmosphere that simply reeks with class. And I trust that you'll excuse my dust when I step on the gas. Honestly, sir, that as far as I'm concerned, so lovely, they can't take that away.
The new capacitors have certainly done the trick with the 8-track changeover mechanism as well. It didn't always fire first go, in fact it usually didn't. You'd end up pressing and holding it and hoping for the best, but with the improved oomph behind it now with the new capacitor, it should be good for a good few more years yet, we hope. So been redone with new, well, all they used was Fablon, really, a sort of high-grade Fablon. And so that's what I've done to make the casing look like it did once again in 1976, or whenever this was made. Sometimes you see these with a record player sat on top. Oh no, the Amerex one too comes like that. So, yeah. On the back of this there are quite a few useful connections, some of which you don't always get. You can, if you wish to, run two sets of speakers for a start, A and B, and then you've got an aux in, phono in, and there are your antenna connections there for FM and AM. I haven't demonstrated AM, not because it doesn't work, but simply because we don't get much of it down here. It just won't pick it up. And there's your speaker selector, and there's a line fuse behind that little knob there. The original rubber feet that this thing sat on were long gone as well. So again, it's been necessary to improvise with some new rubber feet from Robert Dyas just down the road. So there you have it. Perhaps you can polish a turd after all, eh? Those speakers seem to match it very well, actually, both in colour and sort of look, but they weren't the original speakers for it. The original speakers were rather bigger, not much deeper, but they seemed to have a sort of a horn tweeter thing moulded in near the top, and it didn't really do anything at all. All it was a, well, could we glorify it with a bass port? Nah, I don't think so. But coupled with the right pair of speakers, these do have a lovely warm tone. I will give them that. So that's another one saved from the Wagon or landfill or whatever. Hope you like this funny old thing. I seem to be getting quite a lot of these just lately. They all seem to be deciding to come out in sympathy with each other. Yes. Amerex or Amerex. I've got another one here made by Amerex. Put the camera down a minute. And as you could see, apart from a few detail differences, they really are as alike as two peas, aren't they? Yes. The Amerex one was in a bit of a state. That's the HRC 5010. This one, on the other hand, doesn't seem to have any model number at all. Sorry about the background noise, by the way. It's not my stomach or the shitting forecast coming. They're putting in a new door downstairs. It's about time. I bodged it up for her about 5 years ago, and it was supposedly going to be replaced that summer. Finally, they're doing it. Wonders will never cease. See you soon.